The people who change your life rarely arrive with permission. Sometimes they arrive with a single sentence and leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. I first saw Sophia Bennett beneath a crystal chandelier worth more than most people's homes. The ballroom shimmered with gold light. Chicago's elite moved between marble columns and towering floral displays, while a string quartet played softly near the stage. It was another charity gala, another carefully organized evening, another event I was expected to attend because my family's foundation had financed most of it. I hated these functions. Everyone smiled too much. Everyone wanted something. Money, influence, access. The conversations changed, but the motives rarely did. That night was no different. At least not at first. I stood near the back of the ballroom, watching guests circulate through the room. My black suit blended naturally into the shadows. Most people noticed me anyway. They always did. Power attracts attention even when it does not ask for it. Across the room, organizers rushed between tables, making final adjustments before the evening presentation. One woman seemed to be directing all of it. She moved quickly but never appeared rushed. Confident, focused, calm. She checked schedules, coordinated volunteers, and solved problems before anyone else noticed them. I watched her for several minutes without realizing it. Then one of the event sponsors approached me. "Everything looks perfect tonight," he said proudly. Before I could answer, a female voice interrupted from behind him. "Actually, it does not." The sponsor turned around immediately. "So did I?" The woman from across the room stood there holding a clipboard. Her expression remained professional, but she clearly had no interest in pretending everything was flawless. "The presentation screens are displaying the wrong donor list," she said. "3 names are missing." The sponsor laughed nervously. "Nobody will notice. The families who donated $500,000 will notice." Silence followed. Several people nearby suddenly became interested in their drinks. The sponsor's smile faded. "We can fix it later. The event starts in 20 minutes. She folded her arms. Later is not a plan. I almost smiled. Almost. Most people became nervous when confronting wealthy donors. She looked mildly annoyed instead. The sponsor eventually walked away to solve the problem. The woman turned and nearly collided with me. "Sorry," she said automatically. Then she noticed who I was. Most people changed the moment they recognized me. Their posture shifted. Their voice softened. Their confidence disappeared. Sophia did none of those things. "You were staring," she said. "You were interesting." One eyebrow lifted. That is either a compliment or a warning. I have not decided yet. For the first time, she smiled. It was brief, genuine, completely unplanned. Then someone called her name from across the ballroom. "Sophia." She glanced over her shoulder. "Duty calls." Apparently. She started walking away, then paused. "For what it is worth, the missing donors were your idea." "Excuse me." "The scholarship program." She nodded toward the stage. "A lot of students are attending college because of it." Her smile returned, softer this time. "That part of your reputation is accurate." Before I could respond, she disappeared into the crowd. The evening continued. Speeches were delivered. Donations were announced. Applause filled the ballroom. Yet hours later, I realized I remembered almost none of it. I remembered Sophia Bennett, the woman who was not afraid. And for the first time in years, I found myself asking a question I never usually asked. Who was she? The morning light filtered through the tall windows of the office, casting elongated shadows across the polished mahogany desk where I stood, organizing papers for the day. Sophia Bennett had arrived early, her presence as commanding as it had been the night before at the gala. I noticed the subtle way she adjusted her blazer, meticulous but effortless, showing both attention to detail and natural confidence. She greeted the receptionist with a nod, then turned toward me, her gaze direct, assessing, and for a moment I felt as if she could read every thought, every calculation, and every carefully hidden intention I had carefully masked behind my composed exterior. The office buzzed with the quiet hum of computers and soft chatter from the administrative staff, yet around us the air seemed suspended, charged with unspoken curiosity and subtle tension. I cleared my throat, attempting casual conversation, but she interrupted with a sharp, knowing observation about the report on the upcoming charity auction, instantly highlighting an overlooked discrepancy that would have embarrassed the organization if left unresolved. I could not help but be impressed, noting the precision and clarity in her speech. her words delivered without hesitation or affectation, the kind of clarity that commanded attention naturally without needing assertion. Our interaction continued, a careful dance of professional civility intertwined with the silent recognition of a mutual understanding that neither fully articulated. She moved between her tasks with purpose, checking data, coordinating schedules, and yet there was a playful sharpness to her demeanor, a subtle suggestion of challenges and questions that she intended to leave for me to contemplate. I followed her from the office into the conference room, noting how her expression softened as she spoke with the volunteers, offering guidance with warmth yet maintaining her authority. Every gesture was deliberate, balanced between friendliness and command, a careful calibration that made it clear she understood influence not as domination, but as coordination, skill, and awareness. As the morning progressed, a series of unexpected phone calls required our immediate attention. Yet Sophia handled each one with a deft blend of professionalism and instinctive insight that made even the most complex situations seem manageable. There was an unmistakable energy in the room, the kind that forms only when two people aware of their respective strengths engage in shared purpose. By the time the clock approached noon, the daily operations were running smoothly, but I remained acutely aware of her presence. Each glance, each subtle shift of posture, and each measured word contributing to a growing sense of connection and challenge. I realized that what had begun as a professional acquaintance was quickly evolving into an intricate understanding, a silent negotiation of respect, curiosity, and cautious admiration. Sophia moved past the final set of reports, her eyes briefly meeting mine, a hint of a smile playing at the corners of her lips, as if acknowledging a private insight or joke between us, leaving me pondering not only her competence, but also her remarkable ability to make an ordinary morning feel charged with significance and possibility. By mid-afternoon, the office had settled into a steady rhythm, yet an underlying tension persisted, an invisible thread of anticipation connecting every glance exchanged between Sophia Bennett and myself. She was meticulously reviewing the upcoming event schedule, her movements precise and deliberate. Each note, she made a reflection of her analytical mind and careful planning. I observed her across the polished conference table, noting the way sunlight streamed through the blinds, casting lines across her thoughtful expression and the subtle glint of determination in her eyes. Conversations with staff members flowed seamlessly as she balanced instruction with encouragement, her voice calm yet authoritative, a combination that inspired confidence while maintaining respect. My own tasks demanded attention, but I found myself continually aware of her presence, feeling the silent energy that charged the room whenever our eyes met briefly before turning to documents or reports, the unspoken acknowledgement of mutual recognition weaving through the air. During a brief pause, Sophia shared a quick update on a scheduling conflict, her explanation detailed and yet accessible, effortlessly translating complex logistics into actionable steps, demonstrating not only her competence, but also her innate ability to anticipate potential problems before they arose. I found myself admiring the subtle dynamics of her leadership, the balance she maintained between assertiveness and approachability, and the way she could influence without overbearing control, fostering collaboration and efficiency. As the afternoon progressed, a series of unexpected requests arrived from the headquarters, each requiring immediate assessment and delegation. Sophia addressed each with methodical precision, her expressions shifting from curiosity to determination, a faint smile hinting at satisfaction when resolutions were achieved smoothly. The fluidity of her actions, coupled with her unspoken awareness of my presence, created a palpable tension, a delicate interplay of professional focus and personal intrigue. We moved together through the office, checking on different departments, coordinating staff, and managing time-sensitive matters, all the while exchanging glances that conveyed understanding and subtle challenge without the need for words. Even in mundane activities, her impact was evident, the atmosphere becoming charged with purpose and intensity that extended beyond simple task management. By late afternoon, as the day drew toward a close, a quiet moment presented itself, a brief pause to reflect on accomplishments and upcoming responsibilities. Sophia leaned slightly over her notes, her hair catching the fading sunlight, eyes scanning details with unwavering concentration. Yet there was an unmistakable ease to her posture, a confidence born from both competence and the awareness of her influence. I realized that throughout the day, the interactions, glances, and shared moments had built a nuanced connection between us, one that balanced respect, curiosity, and the subtle thrill of anticipation, leaving both professional and personal intrigue lingering in the office air as we prepared to transition into evening tasks, our silent understanding growing stronger with each measured step and considered word. That evening, the city seemed quieter than usual. Maybe it was not Chicago that had changed. Maybe it was me. The office building had long since emptied, leaving only a handful of lights glowing across the upper floors. I stood near the window of my private office, watching traffic move below like streams of gold and red beneath the darkening sky. My phone vibrated twice with messages I ignored. Contracts could wait. Meetings could wait. For reasons I did not fully understand, my thoughts kept returning to Sophia Bennett. A soft knock interrupted the silence. "Come in." The door opened. Sophia stepped inside carrying a folder against her chest. Her hair was slightly out of place, evidence of a long day. Somehow that made her look even more genuine, more real. "I figured you would still be here," she said. "That obvious? You have the reputation of a man who does not know how to leave work behind." I laughed quietly. "And what is your excuse?" "The fundraising projections for next month." She lifted the folder. "Someone has to keep this organization running. I was under the impression that was my job." "Then you have been receiving far too much credit." Her answer came so quickly that I could not help smiling. Sophia placed the folder on my desk before moving toward the window. The skyline stretched before us, glowing beneath thousands of lights. For several moments, neither of us spoke. The silence felt natural, comfortable. That surprised me more than it should have. Most conversations exhausted me. This one never seemed to. "Can I ask you something?" she finally said. "You usually do." She folded her arms and looked out across the city. "Why do you sponsor so many community programs?" The question caught me off guard. "That is what you want to know?" "Yes." I studied her profile. Most people asked about business, power, money, influence. Sophia wanted to know something else entirely. "When I was younger," I said quietly, "someone gave me an opportunity one did not deserve." She turned slightly toward me. "And you never forgot?" "No," her expression softened. "That scholarship program means a lot to people. You seem very invested in it." She smiled faintly. "Because I used to be one of those people." For a moment, I simply stared at her. "You received financial assistance?" "Not from your foundation. Different organization. Similar idea." She looked back toward the skyline. "Without it, college would never have happened." Suddenly, pieces of her began fitting together. The determination, the work ethic, the refusal to waste opportunities. That explains a lot. "What does? Why you care so much?" She laughed softly. "You say that like it is unusual." "It is." "That is a little sad." The honesty of the statement landed harder than expected. Before I could answer, her phone buzzed. She glanced down at the screen. The smile that followed was small but genuine. "Good news?" I asked. "One of our student applicants was accepted into Northwestern." Pride brightened her face. Not for herself, for someone else. I watched her celebrate another person's success and realized something uncomfortable. Every wall I had spent years building seemed weaker around her. Sophia slipped her phone into her pocket and shook her head. "You are staring again." "Apparently I am." "Careful." Her eyes sparkled with amusement. "People might think you are becoming friendly." I smiled despite myself. The moment lingered longer than it should have. Neither of us moved away. Neither of us seemed eager to end the conversation. And for the first time in a very long time, I found myself looking forward to tomorrow simply because I knew I would see her again. The following week moved faster than expected. Meetings filled the calendar. Charity partners came and went. New proposals arrived daily. Yet no matter how busy the schedule became, Sophia Bennett somehow remained at the center of my attention. It was becoming a problem, not a business problem, a personal one, the kind I had spent years avoiding. One Friday evening, we attended the opening ceremony for a new community center funded by the foundation. The building stood on the north side of the city, surrounded by families, volunteers, and students whose lives would benefit from the program. Children ran across the basketball court. Parents toured classrooms. Teachers spoke excitedly about future opportunities. The atmosphere felt hopeful, genuine. Sophia belonged there far more naturally than I did. She moved through the crowd greeting volunteers by name, asking questions, listening to stories. People trusted her instantly. I watched from a distance longer than necessary. Eventually she noticed. "You are staring again," she said as she approached. "I am beginning to think you enjoy mentioning that. Because you keep doing it." She handed me a bottle of water. "Try interacting with people instead." "I am interacting with you." "That is not the same thing." Before I could answer, a young girl approached Sophia, holding a handmade thank you card. The child could not have been older than 10. "Miss Bennett," she said shyly, "my mom said this place exists because of you." Sophia immediately knelt so they were eye level. "It exists because a lot of people work together. But you helped." The girl handed over the card. "Thank you." Sophia accepted it carefully, as though it were something priceless. The child ran away smiling. For several moments, Sophia simply looked at the drawing. "You all right?" I asked quietly. She nodded. Sometimes I forget how much these things matter. Her voice carried an emotion I rarely heard. Honest vulnerability. Without thinking, I placed a hand lightly against her shoulder. "You should not forget." She looked up at me. The noise around us seemed to fade. The crowd disappeared into the background. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Then Sophia smiled. Not the playful smile she often used. Something softer, warmer. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For caring more than people think you do." The words landed harder than they should have. Before I could respond, a photographer called our names. We turned together. Flashbulbs lit the evening. Applause echoed from nearby families. The ceremony was ending. Yet neither of us immediately stepped away. The moment lingered. Suspended. Unexpected. Sophia glanced toward the crowd, then back at me. Emotion flickered across her face. Gratitude. Relief. Affection. Before either of us could overthink it, she leaned forward and placed a brief kiss against my cheek. It lasted only a second. Innocent. Gentle. Completely unexpected. But the impact was immediate. The world seemed to stop. Sophia realized what she had done a moment later. Her eyes widened. A faint blush touched her cheeks. "I am sorry," she said quickly. She never finished the sentence. Because I stepped slightly closer. Not enough to invade her space. Just enough that only she could hear my voice. My gaze never left hers. "You have started something dangerous, Piccola." And for the first time since we met, Sophia Bennett looked completely speechless. The following morning arrived with an unexpected clarity. Sunlight poured through the large windows of the office, casting long shadows across the polished marble floors. Sophia Bennett had already arrived, moving quietly through the space, her presence as effortless as ever. She carried a stack of documents, but her focus seemed elsewhere, a subtle tension in her posture that caught my attention immediately. I leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, observing her, noting how naturally she navigated the room, greeting the staff with gentle smiles and a warmth that made the place feel alive. It was impossible not to feel protective, drawn in, and aware of how close we had grown over the past days. "You look deep in thought," Sophia said without turning, her voice soft but carrying a knowing tone that immediately drew my attention. "I am considering the upcoming meeting with the city council," I replied, stepping into the room, my gaze never leaving her. She finally turned, meeting my eyes with a mixture of curiosity and slight amusement, a subtle smirk forming. "And how do you plan to convince them that our plans will benefit the community?" she asked, tilting her head. Her question was innocent enough, but the underlying challenge was clear. "By showing them how committed we are," I said, moving closer. "And how effective we can be when we work together." She smiled again, her eyes flickering with warmth and appreciation, and for a moment the office felt entirely ours, a space removed from obligations and expectations. We spent the morning discussing strategy, reviewing details, and planning each step meticulously, but our conversation was punctuated by small personal exchanges, glances that carried more weight than the words themselves. Around noon, we walked together through the newly renovated community center, observing volunteers setting up classrooms, children laughing in the play area, and parents engaged in quiet conversations. Sophia's excitement was palpable, and she moved from room to room, engaging with each person with authenticity that was impossible to ignore. I stayed just a few steps behind, aware of how her energy affected everyone she encountered. "Do you realize the impact you have?" I asked quietly, as she paused to watch a group of children assembling a puzzle together. "I try to," she said, glancing over her shoulder with a small, knowing smile. "But seeing it in action makes it more real." The moment stretched, and I reached out to adjust the sleeve of her blazer, a gentle gesture that was both professional and intimate. She looked at me, eyes wide for a brief second, then returned a soft nod, acknowledging the closeness. The rest of the afternoon passed in a rhythm of preparation and anticipation, reviewing plans, confirming schedules, and making subtle improvements, all the while our presence beside each other creating an unspoken bond. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting warm golden light into the rooms, Sophia paused near a window, watching the cityscape. I stood silently behind her, respecting her space but feeling the pull of proximity. She turned slightly, a faint blush coloring her cheeks, and whispered, "It is overwhelming, but in a good way." I smiled, not needing to speak, simply letting her words hang between us. The day ended with a quiet understanding, a sense of accomplishment, and an invisible tether of connection that neither of us could deny, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, we were no longer navigating them alone. The evening settled over the city like a warm, quiet blanket, the lights from the skyline reflecting softly against the glass of the high-rise where we stood. I watched Sophia Parker as she moved gracefully through the office, her hands carefully arranging papers and reviewing notes, a focused intensity in her eyes that drew me in instantly. "I cannot believe how much we have accomplished today," she murmured, barely audible over the hum of the air conditioning. I stepped closer, feeling the subtle tension and excitement in the air as if every decision we had made was leading to this exact moment. She turned, her gaze meeting mine, and a faint, knowing smile curved her lips, making my chest tighten in a way I could not ignore. The conversations of the staff around us faded into a gentle background hum as we shared a brief, wordless exchange, an acknowledgement of the trust and connection that had formed between us over countless hours of collaboration. I gestured toward the city below, and she followed my line of sight, her expression softening as the twinkling lights reminded us of the lives intertwined with our efforts. "It feels surreal, doesn't it?" I asked, my voice low and steady, the words carrying more weight than their surface meaning. She nodded slowly, a thoughtful gleam in her eyes, and stepped slightly closer, closing the distance between us without a word, the movement casual yet intimate. As the sky deepened into a rich indigo, we continued reviewing plans for the upcoming community event, discussing details with precision while occasionally exchanging glances that spoke volumes about our mutual respect and unspoken understanding. The rhythm of our interaction was effortless, a seamless balance between professionalism and the quiet comfort of companionship. At one point, she paused, adjusting a stack of folders, and I found myself noticing the subtle way the lamplight highlighted the contours of her face, a fleeting moment of admiration that was impossible to conceal. "You always notice the smallest details," she said lightly, catching my gaze, her tone playful yet sincere, causing a faint smile to touch my own lips. Our conversation drifted naturally into personal anecdotes and shared observations, laughter mingling with the serious tone of planning, creating an atmosphere that was both focused and relaxed. As the evening drew on, we moved toward the rooftop terrace to take a brief pause, the cool night air wrapping around us as we gazed at the sprawling cityscape. Sophia's presence beside me was comforting and energizing all at once, her quiet confidence and warmth making the challenges ahead feel more manageable. We stood together, sharing the serenity of the moment, a silent acknowledgement that no matter what tomorrow held, we were in it together, our paths now undeniably aligned, bound by the trust, admiration, and quiet affection that had grown between us in ways neither of us had anticipated but both recognized fully. The sun dipped low over the city skyline, casting a golden glow across the streets below, as I watched Sophia Parker approach the cafe where we had agreed to meet after a long day of planning. "I hope you are ready for what comes next," I said softly, my voice carrying a mixture of anticipation and calm determination. She smiled knowingly, the faint glint in her eyes revealing the understanding we had built through countless hours together, the trust and unspoken bond evident in the way she tilted her head slightly as she greeted me. The cafe was quiet, the gentle murmur of other patrons creating a soothing background, yet our focus remained entirely on one another as we shared updates and discussed final details for the upcoming project. Our conversation punctuated by soft laughter and subtle expressions of mutual respect. I noticed the way her hands moved gracefully as she gestured, the sunlight catching the strands of her hair and highlighting the thoughtful expression that so often accompanied her observations, a combination of intellect and warmth that drew me in endlessly. As we stepped outside to the terrace, the cool breeze carrying the scent of blooming flowers, our conversation shifted to reflections on the journey we had taken together, the challenges we had overcome, and the quiet moments of connection that had strengthened our partnership beyond professional boundaries. Sophia's presence beside me was grounding, her energy and focus making the complexities of our responsibilities feel manageable, and as I glanced at her, I saw the same recognition of shared effort and commitment mirrored in her gaze. We paused briefly to take in the panorama of the city below, the twinkling lights beginning to emerge as twilight settled, a symbol of both the beauty and the responsibility that lay before us. The sense of anticipation and accomplishment filled the air, a delicate balance of pride in our work and excitement for what the future held, a mixture of emotions that neither of us needed to voice aloud to understand. As we returned inside, arranging documents and finalizing the schedule for the next week, there was a comfortable rhythm to our interaction, the ease of companionship blending seamlessly with professional focus. Every glance, every slight gesture, reinforced the quiet intimacy and respect that had grown between us, making the ordinary act of planning feel significant and meaningful. By the time we finished, the cafe had transitioned into evening, and stepping out into the cooling air, we shared a moment of quiet reflection, the shared satisfaction of accomplishments mingling with the gentle anticipation of what lay ahead, the connection between us unspoken yet unmistakably powerful, a harmony of partnership and trust that promised both success and continued mutual support in all endeavors to come. The evening sky stretched above the city in a tapestry of soft purples and golds, reflecting the calm that had finally settled after the long series of events that had brought Sophia Parker and I together in a bond of mutual respect and shared experiences. We stood on the balcony of the penthouse overlooking the bustling streets below, the cool breeze carrying a sense of serenity that matched the quiet satisfaction in our hearts, knowing that the challenges we had faced had been met with wisdom, trust, and unwavering focus. "We made it," I said, voice low but steady, acknowledging the journey we had traversed together, the laughter, the quiet moments, and the subtle glances that had spoken volumes throughout the days we had spent navigating both complexity and unexpected turns. Sophia's smile met mine, gentle and full of understanding, reflecting a shared recognition that our partnership had grown stronger not only through tasks completed, but through the respect and admiration we had cultivated for one another. Her presence beside me was grounding, comforting, a reminder of the trust and cooperation that had underpinned every step of our collaboration. The city lights flickered to life, casting a warm glow over the terraces and rooftops, and I felt a profound sense of completion, a narrative arc that had brought resolution, clarity, and a deeply satisfying sense of connection, as if the threads of our experiences had woven seamlessly into a coherent tapestry of accomplishment. We spoke softly, recounting memories, subtle victories, and lessons learned, every word a testament to the patience, empathy, and dedication that had guided our journey, the unspoken understanding between us adding depth to each phrase, each acknowledgement, reinforcing the quiet intimacy that had developed alongside our professional and personal endeavors. The horizon shimmered with the last traces of sunlight, casting reflections on the windows and walls, creating an atmosphere of warmth and completeness that mirrored the internal peace we both felt. There was no need for grand gestures or proclamations. The serenity of the moment, the subtle joy in each other's presence, and the quiet pride in the path we had walked together sufficed to signify the culmination of our shared story. As we turned toward the interior, The gentle hum of the city beneath us providing a comforting backdrop. There was a sense of anticipation not for challenges or obstacles, but for continued growth, collaboration, and the shared understanding that we had built a foundation strong enough to support any endeavor or circumstance that might arise. Our connection an enduring testament to trust, respect, and the quiet, steady strength of a partnership that had weathered trials and emerged whole and meaningful, a true and lasting conclusion that left both of us feeling fulfilled, appreciated, and deeply connected.